Some truths feel too risky to say out loud. Today, how to make it safe enough to say anything and how to say hard things without blowing it up. Let's dive in.
I just love that music. Welcome to the Leadership Lounge Book Club. I'm Jay Jacobson, joined today by Shannon McCoy, Alan Edwards, and Chris Duncan. If you're watching live on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, give us some feedback, ask a question, or leave a comment. If you want to join us live next week, catch up on past episodes, or want weekly reminders, it's all on the book club's website at sedaris.com/book club. That's CDAERIS.com/book club. Okay, let's get started.
Okay, so this week we're covering chapters 7 and 8 of the book Crucial Conversations. We're going to talk about making conversations safe for everyone to speak their truth. This will really help us to have true, crucial conversations that actually solve problems and not allowing really important matters to be swept under the rug. And last but not least, ask yourself the question, what do I personally and professionally want to take away from this? What do I want to apply? This week's meeting is also brought to all of you by MSP Hire, a recruiting firm that specializes in doing the hiring for MSPs or managed service providers, a nice little niche in the IT industry that often needs help finding great talent. So thanks for supporting the Leadership Lounge, MSP Hire. Appreciate you.
Last week, we learned how to recognize when safety is at risk and a conversation begins slipping from dialogue into silence or violence. We also discussed the tools for restoring safety, including mutual purpose, mutual respect, apology, contrasting, and the acronym CRIB, C-R-I-B. If you want to learn more about the techniques or catch up on the book, go back to and listen to our episode on July 16th on YouTube. This week, we are a little over halfway through the book and moving into practical applications. In Chapter 8, we will explore how to share our own personal perspective honestly and respectfully using the STATE, S-T-A-T-E path framework. Then in Chapter 9, we'll turn our attention to the other person. We will learn how to listen with curiosity, understanding the story behind someone's emotions, and help them return to dialogue. As Shannon said, this is where we begin learning not only how to speak when stakes are high, but also how to listen when the other person is angry, defensive, or withdrawing. Alan, the book goes into a lot of detail about recognizing when a conversation begins to go off the rails and how to listen with intent to other persons.
I am listening intently to you. First off, I feel like I totally messed up our last episode. I started talking about a lot of this chapter last week, and I was completely off. But I think it's worth stating, getting us back on course for sure. So recognizing when it goes off the rails, right? It's kind of what the chapter, to me, this fleshes in the introduction of the book as well. Like, what is a crucial conversation? Your emotions get high, faces get red, or that violence or silence that we've talked about before, where people just start being quiet. And this is a great transition too, to talk about Chris being quiet today. Chris is under the weather, his throat's killing him. So he's gonna speak limitedly today. Be glad to have you, Chris.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate being here. Seriously.
We'll follow your facial expressions.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. I appreciate
you guys.
In
body language and understanding what's really going on.
I appreciate you guys covering for me. Thank you.
But yeah, we have to find ways to make it safe when things are going off the rails. But the step one is to recognize that that's happening. And I can't wait to hear you guys' perspective on that.
Yeah.
Shannon, what was one of your main takeaways for this week?
Yeah, I really appreciated the chapter 7. It's mutual respect. I started thinking of, first of all, before even reading it, like, if I'm a leader, what is it that I'm going to apply from this as a leader? What I took out of it is being able to, well, basically what I took out of it is humility. I mean, the word's not used there, but it talks about discovering shared outcomes, noticing when people are being defensive, and you may be a little bit, walking away from a conversation, and just look at that. What we talked about: facial expression, body expressions, body language. So a leader's role could be, I mean, so first of all, to think about, if you're really humble, what you're going to do is you're going to think not just about the respect that they should have for you as the leader, right? Because that's often pretty the norm. But we're talking about mutual respect. We want to have respect. We all do, but we want to give them respect in the conversations to show that mutual respect is a value. So how do we go about doing that? And so there were some really, really good points here about noticing, as a leader, noticing our own, basically like our own sins and imperfections. And it was mentioned there's a prayer goes something along. I didn't write this down, but I remember there was a prayer in here that was along the lines is, forgive me for my sins and forgive those of their sins, or those who sin differently from me. Just don't forget, I fall in that category, not just being like, yeah, take care of these others. So anyway, that's one of the points I kind of just jumped off with. I thought, wow, yeah, you have to be humble for this. I mean, that's calling upon a lot for some people, is to humble themselves when they were promoted.
Yeah.
To this position of assignment.
One of the examples he gives in the book on how to get back to safety is that humility piece. He talks about starting with apologizing, right? Followed by contrasting. And I've had a couple of crucial conversations this week where I was essentially repairing past crucial conversations that I had done messed up, right? And in those sessions, I had to say, hey, look, I want to really apologize for the last gazillion times we've met. I know that I have flown off the handle and kind of shut you down. I don't want you to feel that way. I actually value your opinion, and I'm going to try to be better at this and just be quiet and listen for a few minutes first. And that's kind of how I built in my apologize and contrast to get it back safe. And I got to say, the conversation went a lot better this time.
Yeah, Alan, you hit on a really good point. One of the best exercises I've seen in developing good practices with crucial conversation is to go back and think about those conversations you had that didn't go well. And had you applied one of the acronyms that we're using, that you were so in love with, the crib method, how would that conversation have done better? And just to hear your story about how that worked this week is wonderful, because we all have those kind of conversations.
Yeah, it happens. We probably should restate, since we're covering this chapter, what crib is.
That's why I teed you up to do that.
Thank you for that. It's CRIB, commit, recognize, invent, brainstorm. So you're committing to seeking that mutual purpose that Shannon brought up. You're going to recognize that there's a purpose behind what we're trying to accomplish here, and let's get to the heart of that purpose. Then you're going to invent a shared purpose, meaning can we all both get on the same page for what that purpose is going to be for this particular conversation? And then brainstorm, what can we do together? What's that strategy we're going to do to get there? And that's what crib does. It's a little formal for my liking in the conversation, but it definitely hits at the heart of the matter and the things that have to happen.
I think it's interesting. The author again strikes on this concept of mutual purpose again in this chapter. And as we go further, it's going to be an over recurring theme, and that ability to find that mutual purpose in those conversations is essential in building that kind of dialogue.
Absolutely. I think we have to ask that question every conversation, right? Are we still on that shared purpose?
Right. And on that note too, that we think about that mutual respect, it says, and again, thinking from the leader taking the role, being exemplary in this, is honoring everybody's humanity and differences. And so one of the things that it suggested too is that there could be a deep dive regarding want. So what that means is kind of what Alan was talking about in detail. There was an example of someone that discovered, well, a group of people discovered that their desire to experience what they desired to experience, build, and obtain was not only similar but really the same. It was the same desire, and that was using the example of some folks that went on strike and came back, and they were negotiating, and it was really interesting because this process of doing a deep dive about the purpose, like Alan said, what if we discover what that is? This was a wonderful example of doing that with a big group. To actually, I mean, and we've often said this on the world scene as far as like, it could be as big as a war, like what is it that people really want? And a lot of times it's the same thing. I want peace and security. I want, so what in a business, they may have already bought into the mission, vision, and purpose. And now it's just how you get there. Like Alan was saying, what's the strategy to get there? That's what was different.
There's a great quote in the book that I'll paraphrase, which is it's amazing how often we're fighting for the same thing.
Yes.
Fighting nonetheless.
I made a note called the big idea. The people don't become defensive because of the conversation itself. They become defensive when they no longer feel safe. Great communication restores safety first, then solves the problem. And I think that is one of the key takeaways from this chapter. I kind of want to wrap that in there before we move on to chapter 8, where we're going to talk about how we state our path, how we're going to move forward. So, Alan, did you have any big ideas about chapter 8?
State My Path chapter, or the previous chapter we're talking?
State My Path.
This is the time where I actually like what the acronym says. Where you just have to go back to the basics and be clear. I mean, what's cool about this acronym, I'll let somebody else define it this time, is the acronym also works as a word this time, right? Mm-hmm. You literally are stating your path. So just saying, hey, look, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking is happening. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's so specific and it so universally works. I love this one a lot.
Mm-hmm. I find it interesting. You can break that down into two different types of actions. The first 3 points of the acronym start talking about what. And then we looked at the last 2, tell your story and ask for others' path. It is, talking tentatively and encouraging testing. It talks about the how. How are we going to accomplish this? So it's great that the author broke it down into those 2 types of points.
I also think the whole concept of what's happening, my wife's been reading along with us as well. And that whole story concept really struck her. Mm-hmm. She comes to me with stories all the time, like, oh, so-and-so formed a band. They didn't invite me. Uh-huh. There's 300 bands in town, right? She can only be in a couple. And she's like, oh, they must not like me. Oh, this thing must be happening. Okay, let's go back and let's state the actual facts. What's happened? They're rehearsing without you. Okay, that's a true fact. No conclusion to it. Mm-hmm. And even just starting with that S and state has helped me go, oh, everything else I'm making up. I don't know for sure. Yeah. Changes the dynamic completely.
I thought it was interesting how the thought of intent was brought up consistently because of, we don't know of each other's intent. And obviously when you're like in a marriage, you love someone a lot. Probably when you first get married, especially, you just assume all intentions are great. It's not that way when you're at work and you hear a comment that just hits you maybe the wrong way, is that you determine someone else's intent without asking. And so one of the things in my notes was stating that if they aren't clear, the person you're talking with or you having an issue with, if not clear of your intentions, they will always assume the worst. Mm-hmm. I mean,
yeah. So will they actually? I'm sure he'll figure that out. Are we sure they will assume the worst?
That was many times, like we talked about last time, we tell ourselves our story based on our own experience, and when we can start actively removing our story from our process and start just focusing back on the facts and the outcome we want to receive, then the conversation can come back on the track.
Right. I was quite curious if I don't know if Shannon's audio is working right now. If I don't recall the book actually saying they'll assume the worst, but I could totally see that I missed that piece because I don't read negativity sometimes. Do we assume the worst? Jay, do you find
I
that's
think
true for you?
I think a lot of that depends on the personalities.
Mhm.
Like your wife, my wife is reading the book at the same time as I am, and I'm one of these people that I automatically assume the best. What's going to be the best outcome? Whereas her story is, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? And so I think a lot of that depends on the type of personality we are. I'm one who's very forward focused and not worried about what's happened in the past, whereas the past has done a lot to form her thought process, more so than mine.
Now, I wouldn't say that I assume the best either, but I definitely connect a series of facts and I tell a story, and sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's more negative or more positive than they intended.
And it's amazing how fast that story processes when we get information, and you don't even realize it. And that's one of the beauties of this book. It points out those little subtleties about how our mind works, how our conversations work, and why, if we just pay attention to some of those things, we can change our behavior. We can change our understanding when it comes to having and holding these type of crucial conversations.
Yeah. And Shannon, did you have more to add to that thought? We were still,
Oh,
your last quote was good. We're still
huge.
going on.
It was mind blowing. I mean, you just got, I mean, I never flowed so much, but the power went out and I don't even remember what I was going to say. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So I think I made my point on that. I'll catch up with you here.
No worries.
Yeah. All right.
So, what is one thing that you think leaders can take away from this week and put into their own lives and their own conversations they're going to hold in the next couple of weeks?
You know what? It'd be really good if we had, write state down on an index card for your next conversation. I think that'd be a great start because this is the first acronym that was specific enough that I would write this down and keep it in my pocket for conversations that pop up.
And what did it stand for again?
Yep. State is share your facts, tell your story, ask for others' paths, like their facts and their story. And then the how is talk tentatively. Like this is what I feel, what I think, but I'm not sure. That's the tentative part. And then encourage testing. So STATA, share your facts, tell your story, ask others, talk tentatively, encourage testing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I had an example. I think, one of our goals here is to what we're going to take away personally and professionally, right? And what we're going to implement in our life. And I can give an example that I could pinpoint that I tried this process, right? Like with my family. My family has a tendency, you know how families are with like culturally that they just make certain statements. And I noticed that years ago that my family, when I'll make a statement, my family will say, and they'll do this to each other, is they'll say, well, not only that, like if you say, well, it was really what is important to me is this, and they'll say, not only that, not just that, no, the main point is, and what I felt was their intent was to belittle what I was saying, that I've always seen it as dismissive, demeaning, condescending, all those things. And then for the first time, I talked to my brother about it. I went into detail with him. I said, here's how it makes me feel. This is the fact. So I wrote these facts down. These are the statements. And what I'm assuming is this. And my brother's like, dude, I'm just excited. Like, yeah, you just got me on a roll. And I'm like, not only that, but boo.
Wow.
I said, yeah, but it feels like it stacks on top of mine. And so for about 5 years, he did not do that. And he just now started doing it again. So we'll have this conversation. But that could be a crucial conversation. That could happen at work. What if he wasn't my brother and it was my boss?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
the same principles hold true.
Yeah.
I want to just add a piece, total segue here. What we've been talking about, humility and leading with heart and having mutual respect. I start a lot of my leadership team meetings with personal wins, personal positives, business wins, those types of things. Many people have done that before. I'm even having a documentation meeting where people get together to share what processes have changed. And because that meeting is pretty short, and we have time to gather together, I've actually added a compliment of the week. and we go around the room, just, hey, pay a compliment as specific as you can to anybody in the room or not. And what a change that meeting has had. Right? Just really beginning to think about the positive stories before we dig in and make assumptions in a negative light.
Yeah, that goes to developing a better culture within the situation, your workplace or your family, in modeling the kind of behavior you'd like to see. And that is one of the key elements in terms of developing leadership and developing better culture, is to be able to implement just one small change that changes it to a positive situation, and teaches the people in your organization how you would like to have them treat each other.
Indeed.
Now, I wrote down a couple of thoughts for how to process this for the next week. Ask yourself a couple of questions. What do I really want for myself? What do I want for others and the relationship? What do I do right now to move forward? What I really want is, and how would I behave if this is what I really want? And I think when you approach a conversation or a situation with those questions in mind, it helps keep you from falling off the rails.
Mm-hmm. There's a perfect example of, in the book they use an example of someone whose child was not doing so great, and so the teacher was talking about having them held back. I don't know if you guys talked about this when I was off for just a second, but it was I thought that was really interesting, because that's what the parent they could have done instead of going in like just highly charged. Because really, you're thinking, I mean, that's a good example, because you want to hold my kid, but do you understand the stigma that causes? Do you understand the trauma that may cause? Do you understand? And so coming in that room with that, you're not going to you're going to create defensiveness, and you're going to stay in defensiveness. But if that person was to sit and think about, you know what, I know these people were trained to do this. They know what to see, what to look for in regards to this. But what I really want my kid to do is succeed, and what I really want is this. And if they come in there with that attitude, they're really going to, that opens up a way for a real good discussion versus potentially a lot of drama in your life. And I know we're all here. We don't need that. We don't want to bring drama to work, and don't want it at home.
I thought that was a great story and example too, because I could see it from both sides, being a parent and one time a student, right? Or that professional that people no one listens to. I saw so much positive that could come out of that conversation by actually saying, like, here's the negatives that we see. We respect your opinion. What are you seeing? And is there a compromise or another way to do this? I'd also be really curious in past chapters if we've, or is it future chapters, deciding how the decision is going to be made. That's later, isn't it? I'd be curious in that same example how the decision gets made.
Yes.
Nice reframing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chris is alive, guys.
Well, as we start to wrap this up, it's getting to be that time.
Oh, no.
Ask yourself, is it? Ask yourself, what is something that you can do today to recognize when a conversation goes off the rails? Once we've created safety and learned how to state our path, we are finally ready to share our perspective honestly and respectfully. But speaking is only half of the dialogue. Next week in chapters 9 and 10, we will learn how to explore the other person's path and how to respond when someone brings a crucial conversation to us. The focus shifts from initiating a difficult conversation to receiving one, listening with curiosity, understanding the other person's story, and choosing our response instead of allowing someone else to write our story for us. Chapter 9, explore others' paths, ask us to listen when the others move towards silence or force. Chapter 10, retake your pen, asks us to remain grounded when the difficult feedback is about us. The question becomes, can we stay curious when we are no longer holding the agenda?
And Jay, thank you so much for hosting today. Chris showed up with a sore throat. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah. It may have been a little rough, but we jump in and we try.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or add to the conversation?
Let's do our call to action.
Okay. Please like and subscribe to your favorite channel to get notified when we start streaming next week, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. Thank you, Alan, Chris, and Shannon from Sedaris Agency. I'm Jay Jacobson with Jacobson Professional Staffing, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Thursdays at noon Pacific. Bring the book and bring your thoughts.